Your brand new iPhone deserves the best protection, and the iLune 3-pack screen protector plus 3-pack camera lens protector has you covered. Don't take risks with your iPhone. Click the link in the video description to shop now on Amazon.
Welcome back to Xiaomi Insider, where we dive into the latest news and trends from the world of tech and electric vehicles. Today, we're talking about Xiaomi's Q1 EV sales growth and what that tells us about the company's future. So, you might have heard by now that Xiaomi's electric car business had a pretty modest quarter, with sales reaching around 18.1 billion yuan. Now, that does sound like a lot of money, but when you consider it's only an 11% increase from the previous quarter, it gives us some food for thought. Xiaomi's Q1 EV sales growth is indeed slowing down, partly due to seasonal factors, which means that we're not seeing the usual spike in demand during this time of year. The company's electric car division generated sales worth around 2.2 billion euros, with a turnover of 18.1 billion yuan, an increase of 11% compared to the previous quarter. But what's interesting here is how quickly Xiaomi's growth has slowed down. In the third quarter, they reported growth of 71.5%. That was pretty impressive, but in the fourth quarter of last year, it was a more modest 52.1%. And now, with an 11% increase in Q1, we're seeing a bit of a slowdown. Now, let's take a look at some numbers. Xiaomi generated sales worth around 4.17 billion euros from its electric car business alone. That's not too shabby for the company's first quarter. But what's even more impressive is that they've been able to sell almost 4 billion euros worth of EVs in just over 3 months. Of course, it's worth noting that these sales figures are largely driven by the launch of their debut model, the SU7 electric sedan. And we know why that's the case. Xiaomi has been working hard to get this car out there and make a big splash. In fact, they've reported 75,869 units delivered in Q1, which is an almost 9% increase from last quarter. But what's also important here is how these numbers compare to Xiaomi's overall delivery targets. They raised their target for electric car deliveries from 300,000 to 350,000 this year, and we're still a way off that mark. In fact, the company delivered fewer units than expected in Q1. Now, there are a few factors at play here that might be contributing to these numbers. One of them is the company's image, or rather, its lack thereof. Xiaomi has been making headlines for all the wrong reasons when it comes to safety and reliability concerns related to their electric cars. And we know why that's the case. There have been some pretty serious incidents involving the SU7, including reports of brake failures and accidents. So what does this mean for Xiaomi's future? Well, on one hand, these numbers do suggest that the company still has a lot to prove in terms of its electric car business. On the other hand, we should be encouraged by their efforts to innovate and improve. After all, they've already generated almost 4 billion euros worth of sales from just 3 months of deliveries. So there you have it, Xiaomi's Q1 EV sales growth, in a nutshell. It's not always easy being a leader in the electric vehicle market, but we're excited to see how this company will continue to evolve and improve over time. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Xiaomi Insider.